My name is Allison Montgomery, 27 years old, and currently living out of my car. 2 weeks ago, I had a job, an apartment, and a boyfriend. Now I have none of those things. When I called my parents in tears, my father's cold voice just said, "You're on your own, Allison. Figure it out." That's been their mantra my entire life. So here I am parked outside my sister Kimberly's luxury condo complex, too proud to beg for help. But as I approach her door, my heart stops. There, tied to her doorknock, is a red ribbon. Our childhood distress signal. The sign we created when we needed help but couldn't say it out loud. If you're watching this from somewhere warm and safe, I envy you. Drop a comment letting me know where you're viewing from and hit subscribe to follow my journey from rock bottom. Trust me, you'll want to see how this turns out. The rain drummed against my car windows as I stared at the dashboard clock 11:43 p.m. 2 weeks ago, I'd been working late at Harrington Gallery hanging a new exhibition. I'd been there 3 years, slowly working my way up from receptionist to assistant curator. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills while I pursued my own art on the side. That night, my boss Leonard called me into his office. Budget cuts. Restructuring. All those corporate euphemisms that meant I no longer had a job. "You're talented, Allison," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "You'll land on your feet." I drove home in a daze, hoping for comfort from Jason, my boyfriend of 2 years. Instead, I found him and my coworker Melissa tangled together on our couch. The couch I'd saved for 6 months to buy. "This isn't working anyway," Jason said the next morning, remarkably composed. "You should find somewhere else to stay. I need the apartment for my new business venture." That business venture apparently involved Melissa moving in 3 days later. Since both our names were on the lease but only his name was on the most recent rent check, I had little leverage. With maxed out credit cards from buying art supplies and paying for a root canal last winter, plus the weight of my art school student loans, I had exactly $843 to my name. My family never struggled financially. My father, Richard Montgomery, built his investment firm from scratch, and my mother, Eleanor, managed their social calendar with military precision. They lived in a sprawling colonial home in Westchester with a 3-car garage and membership to the country club. But wealth came with expectations. Montgomerys stand on their own 2 feet, my father would say. We don't coddle weakness. Growing up, Kimberly understood the family code better than I did. 5 years older, she excelled at everything: academics, tennis, piano, and later business. She graduated with honors from Wharton while I studied art at a state school after losing my merit scholarship due to insufficient academic progress. In reality, I'd been hospitalized for exhaustion and anxiety, but my parents called it dramatic attention-seeking. Kimberly became a real estate agent, selling luxury properties, driving a Mercedes by 25, and purchasing her condo by 27. Meanwhile, I was the family disappointment, the artist, the dreamer, the one who needed to grow up and face reality. The red ribbon had been our secret code since childhood. When our parents hosted their lavish dinner parties, they expected perfect behavior from their daughters. One night when I was 7, I became violently ill during a particularly important business dinner. Terrified of disrupting the event and facing our parents' disapproval, I suffered silently until Kimberly noticed my pale face. She tied her red hair ribbon to the bathroom doorknob before telling our mother I needed help. It became our signal, a way to say I'm not okay when admitting weakness wasn't allowed. As adults, we joked about it during a rare sisterly lunch last year. "If my perfect life ever falls apart, I'll hang a red ribbon on my door." Kimberly had laughed, champagne flute in hand. But we hadn't spoken in months, not since our fight at our parents' anniversary party. Kimberly had been different, edgy, defensive. When I asked if she was okay, she accused me of jealousy and trying to undermine her. I'd left hurt and confused, and our communication had dwindled to obligatory birthday texts. Now I sat in my car packed with hastily gathered belongings. Clothes, my laptop, and art supplies crammed into the back seat. I'd been sleeping here for 3 nights, showering at a gym with a trial membership. The humiliation of calling my parents had been a last resort. Their rejection shouldn't have surprised me, yet somehow it still stung. "You're 27, Allison," my mother had sighed. "We can't keep bailing you out every time you have a setback." "When have you ever bailed me out?" I'd asked, but she had already handed the phone to my father. "You're on your own," he'd said firmly. "Figure it out." I hadn't even bothered calling Kimberly. Why would the golden child help when our parents wouldn't? Yet here I was staring at her building because I had nowhere else to go. And now the red ribbon, our distress signal, hung from her door like a crimson flag of surrender. My hand trembled as I reached for it. The perfect sister, the successful one, was asking for help. Or was it a cruel joke? Only one way to find out. I knocked 3 times listening for movement inside. Nothing. Kimberly's white Range Rover sat in its designated spot, along with a black BMW I didn't recognize. Someone was home. Or should be. I knocked again louder. Kimberly, it's Allison. Are you there? Silence. My fingers found the emergency key she'd given me years ago, still on my keyring despite our recent distance. I'd kept it more as a memento than anything else, never expecting to use it. The lock turned smoothly. Kim, I'm coming in okay. The smell hit me first. Stale cigarettes and something chemical that burned my nostrils. The contrast between the exterior and interior of the condo was jarring. From the outside, it was the epitome of success. A corner unit in an exclusive building with panoramic city views. Inside was chaos. Takeout containers littered the kitchen counter. Ashtrays overflowed. Designer clothes lay strewn across furniture instead of hanging in what I knew was a meticulously organized closet. But it was the living room coffee table that made my blood run cold. A small mirror with traces of white powder. A lighter. A spoon. Tiny plastic bags. Kimberly, I called again, my voice echoing through the 3-bedroom condo. I moved cautiously through the space, noting strange absences. The walls featured clean rectangles where artwork had hung. The built-in bookcase was half empty, expensive first editions missing. In the kitchen, the spot where her high-end espresso machine had stood was vacant. In Kimberly's home office, I found her phone plugged in but with a cracked screen. The notifications illuminated when I touched it. 17 missed calls, dozens of text messages. Many from a contact named Marcus. Where's my money, Kay? Don't make me come find you. You promised payment today. You know what happens to people who cross me. I scrolled further, my hands shaking. I own you now, princess. Don't forget it. The most recent. Last chance. Tomorrow night. Bring everything you owe. Bank statements lay scattered across her desk. Large withdrawals, thousands at a time. Account balances dwindling. A notice of pending foreclosure on the condo. Credit cards maxed out. Her computer was still on browser, open to her Instagram page. The dichotomy was surreal. Photos of Kimberly at charity galas showing luxury properties sipping cocktails on rooftop bars. The image of success. The perfect daughter. Every post meticulously edited to present an immaculate life. I clicked through to her email, feeling like an intruder but propelled by growing concern. Amid work correspondence and promotional emails sat a draft folder. Inside was a letter to our parents dated 3 months ago. Mom and Dad, I know Allison might reach out to you for financial help. Please don't give her anything. She needs to learn responsibility. I'm handling my own issues and she needs to do the same. If you feel compelled to help someone, I could use some assistance with an investment opportunity, but please don't mention it to Allison. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. While I'd been struggling to make ends meet, too proud to ask for help until desperation forced my hand, my sister had been actively sabotaging any support I might receive. In her bedroom, the evidence of a double life became clearer. Prescription bottles with different names. A drawer full of expensive jewelry, or rather half full with empty spots in the velvet inserts. A notebook with names, amounts, and dates. Photos in her nightstand revealed a man I'd never seen before. Handsome in a dangerous way, with an arm possessively around Kimberly. The same man appeared in multiple pictures, the timeline showing my sister's gradual transformation. In the earliest photos, she looked like the Kimberly I knew. In the latest, she was thin to the point of gauntness with dark circles under her eyes despite her smile. On her vanity, a small framed photo caught my eye. Kimberly and me as children, arms around each other, gap-toothed grins facing the camera. Beside it lay a red hair ribbon identical to the one on her door. My successful, perfect sister was living a lie. The golden child had fallen and no one knew. Or perhaps worse, our parents knew and had chosen to hide it rather than acknowledge that their paragon of success had faltered. Either way, Kimberly was in trouble. And despite the betrayal I'd just discovered, despite years of living in her shadow, one fact remained clear: she had finally used our signal. She needed help. My sister was missing, and judging by the threatening messages, she was in danger. Panic rose in my throat as I tried Kimberly's cell again, hearing it ring uselessly on her desk. Where would she go? Who would know her whereabouts? I scrolled through her contacts, calling 3 friends listed as favorites. Kimberly, haven't heard from her in weeks, said, the first surprise evident in her voice. She's canceled our last 3 lunch dates. The second hadn't seen her since a charity event a month ago. She seemed off distracted. Is everything okay? The third, a colleague named Diane, hesitated before answering. Look, we've all been worried. She's missed showings, been late to client meetings. The broker is about to reassign her listings. When did you last see her? I pressed. Tuesday, briefly. She looked terrible, claimed food poisoning. Listen, is this about the money? Because if she borrowed from you too. What money? Another uncomfortable pause. She's been asking everyone for loans. Said it was for an investment opportunity, but there's been talk. I thanked her and hung up, a cold dread settling in my stomach. My next stop was Kimberly's real estate office downtown. The receptionist recognized me from company parties. You just missed her, she called in, said she'd be dropping off paperwork but never showed. Her manager was less welcoming. Your sister is on thin ice, Allison. 6 missed showings this month. Clients complaining. If you're in contact with her, tell her to call me immediately. In Kimberly's desk, I found her planner, several pages torn out but recent entries intact. Addresses were scribbled in margins, some crossed out. I recognized some as property listings, but others were in parts of town Kimberly would never typically visit. The first address led to an upscale pawn shop. The owner eyed me suspiciously until I showed him Kimberly's photo. Your sister's been in here 5 times this month, he confirmed. Brought in some nice pieces. Designer watches, jewelry, even a signed first edition collection. When was she here last? Yesterday afternoon. Seemed agitated. The items she brought in were worth less than she expected. She wasn't happy with what I could offer. 3 more addresses yielded similar stories. Businesses where Kimberly had been selling possessions for quick cash. The 4th address led me to a bar in a part of town I barely recognized. The bartender nodded at Kimberly's photo. Yeah, she comes in with Marcus. They usually head to the back room. Marcus. A guarded look crossed his face. Listen, you might want to stay out of their business. Marcus doesn't like people asking questions. She's my sister, I insisted. Please. I'm worried about her. After a long moment, he leaned forward. Marcus Blackwood. Deals to the upper crust, people with money who want to party discreetly. Your sister started as a client, brought in rich friends. Now she's in deep money, drugs, probably more. Do you know where I can find her? He shook his head. Haven't seen them in a couple days. But if she's running from Marcus, he didn't finish the sentence. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Hey, be careful. Marcus doesn't mess around. The next address was an apartment building downtown. I found the unit number from Kimberly's planner and knocked hesitantly. A woman in her 20s opened the door, recognition flashing across her face. You look just like her. You know my sister. She glanced nervously down the hallway. You shouldn't be here. He'll be back soon. Marcus, please, I need to find Kimberly. She hasn't been here in days. Marcus is furious. She took something that belongs to him. Before I could ask more, a voice behind me cut through the air. Who the hell are you? I turned to face a tall man with dark hair, the same man from Kimberly's photos. Up close, his good looks had a predatory edge. I'm looking for my sister, Kimberly Montgomery. His expression shifted, calculating. Another Montgomery, huh? Interesting. Your sister and I have unfinished business. What kind of business? His smile didn't reach his eyes. The kind that's none of yours. But since you're so concerned, give her a message if you find her first. Tell her the clock's ticking and I want what's mine. Is that a threat? He stepped closer. Consider it friendly advice. Stop looking. Family or not, you don't want to get caught in the crossfire. As I hurried back to my car, my phone chimed. An unknown number had sent a text. Stop asking questions about Kay. Final warning. Despite the threat, I was more determined than ever. My sister was in serious trouble, and for the first time in our lives, I was the only one looking for her. Number. Part 5. Confronting the parents. The sprawling colonial house looked exactly as it always had. Manicured lawn, gleaming windows, luxury cars in the circular driveway. I'd avoided this place for months, the constant reminders of my inadequacy too painful to face voluntarily. Now I had no choice. The housekeeper answered the door, surprise evident in her expression. "Miss Allison, we weren't expecting you. Are my parents home, Maria? They're having dinner on the patio. Shall I announce you?" No need. I walked through the familiar hallways past family photos carefully curated to show achievement. Graduations, awards, ceremonies, charity galas. The narrative of Montgomery success carefully preserved under glass. My parents sat at the patio table, wine glasses, half-empty plates of grilled salmon and asparagus before them. My mother noticed me first, her perfectly composed face registering shock before settling into a neutral expression. "Allison." "This is unexpected." My father didn't look up from his meal. "If you've come about money, the answer is still no. I'm not here about money." I remained standing, declining the seat my mother half-heartedly offered. "I'm here about Kimberly." That got my father's attention. "What about her? Have you spoken to her recently? She's missed our last 2 Sunday dinners." "When did you last hear from her?" My mother sipped her wine. "She called last week. Said she was busy with a big sale." "Why?" "Because she's in trouble. Serious trouble." My father scoffed. "Nonsense. Kimberly doesn't get into trouble. She's addicted to drugs, Dad. She's in debt to her dealer. Her condo is being foreclosed on. She's been pawning her possessions for cash." The stunned silence that followed would have been satisfying under different circumstances. My mother recovered first. "That's ridiculous. Kimberly is the responsible one." "The responsible one," I repeated. "As opposed to me, right? The disappointment." "That's not what your mother meant," my father interjected, but the familiar defensiveness had crept into his tone. "I've been to her condo. I've spoken to her colleagues, her friends. She's been missing work, borrowing money, selling her things. I found drug paraphernalia in her home." "You're exaggerating," my father dismissed. "Kimberly probably just had a party. People experiment. This isn't experimentation. She's in serious danger. Someone named Marcus is threatening her. She left our distress signal. The red ribbon." My mother's hand trembled slightly, spilling wine. "Allison, I think you're upset about your own situation and trying to create drama around your sister." The familiar accusation stung, but I pressed on. "Have you been giving Kimberly money?" My parents exchanged glances. "She approached us about an investment opportunity," my father admitted. "A luxury development project. We've provided capital." "How much?" "That's between us and Kimberly. It wasn't for an investment. She's been funding her addiction. And apparently sabotaging any help I might receive in the process." I showed them the draft email from Kimberly's computer. My mother's face paled, but my father remained obstinate. "This proves nothing. Kimberly has always been concerned about your lack of responsibility." I took a deep breath. "I lost my job due to budget cuts. I got cheated on and kicked out of my apartment. I asked for help once. And you turned me away. Meanwhile, you've been bankrolling Kimberly's addiction because it came disguised as an investment opportunity." "Watch your tone," my father warned. "No, you need to listen. Your perfect daughter is missing. She's involved with a dangerous drug dealer. She needs help. Real help. Not money." My mother's composure finally cracked. "We knew she was having issues. She came to us 3 months ago, seemed agitated. Said she'd made some poor decisions but was handling it. We suggested she take time off, maybe visit the house in Vermont. And she refused," my father added. "Said it would damage her professional reputation." "Heaven forbid a Montgomery show weakness," I muttered. "What exactly are you implying?" My father's voice had taken on the dangerous quietness I remembered from childhood scoldings. "I'm implying that your obsession with appearances and success created an environment where both your daughters would rather suffer alone than admit they're struggling." The words burst from me, years of suppressed feelings finally finding voice. "Kimberly is literally destroying herself because she can't bear to be a disappointment. And I've been living in my car for days because I was too ashamed to admit how badly I needed help." Silence fell across the patio. For once, my father appeared speechless. Kimberly talked to us, at least my mother finally said quietly. And what good did it do? You threw money at the problem instead of addressing the actual issues. Just like you always have. That's enough, my father said, but his voice lacked its usual authority. No, it's not enough. Kimberly is missing. She could be hurt or worse. And I need to know if you're going to help me find her, or if I'm truly on my own in this too. My father stood abruptly. I'll make some calls. To whom your country club friends, we need to go to the police. Absolutely not. We handle this privately. The Montgomery name is more important than your daughter's life. Is that it? The look that crossed my father's face was one I'd never seen before. Uncertainty. Possibly even shame. My mother reached for my hand, surprising me. Tell us everything you know. As I laid out what I'd discovered, I watched my parents' carefully constructed reality crumble. The truth about their golden child was shattering their worldview in real time. By the time I finished, my mother was openly crying, and my father looked 10 years older. We should have known, my mother whispered. The signs were there. We'll hire a private investigator, my father decided, already reaching for his phone. Someone discreet. There's no time for discretion, I insisted. Kimberly needs help now. But I could see I was losing them again. Their instinct for privacy and control reasserting itself. Whatever brief vulnerability they'd shown was being buried beneath familiar patterns. We'll handle this, Allison, my father said in his board meeting voice. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. I recognized the dismissal for what it was. They would proceed on their terms, prioritizing reputation over speed. Kimberly didn't have that kind of time. Fine. Handle it your way. I'll find her myself. As I turned to leave, my mother called after me. Allison, where are you staying? If you need money for a hotel? I laughed bitterly. Now you ask, no thanks. I'm on my own, remember? The irony wasn't lost on me. As I walked back to my car, the weight of being the responsible Montgomery daughter settling firmly on my shoulders. After a lifetime in Kimberly's shadow, I was now her best hope. The coffee shop near Kimberly's condo had become my makeshift office. The barista Tara had started recognizing me, occasionally offering free refills as I sat hunched over my laptop for hours. Still no luck finding your sister, she asked, sliding a fresh coffee toward me. I shook my head. 3 days of searching. Nothing. She studied Kimberly's photo on my screen. Wait, I know her. She comes in sometimes with this intense guy. Dark hair, expensive watch. Marcus, when did you last see them? About a week ago. They were arguing. She seemed scared. I'd been showing Kimberly's photo everywhere, following every address in her planner, combing through her social media for clues. Each lead hit a dead end. Tara sat down across from me. Look, my shift ends in 20 minutes. You look like you haven't slept in days. Why don't you crash at my place tonight? My roommate's out of town. Her unexpected kindness brought me to the edge of tears. I couldn't impose. It's a couch, not a kidney, she smiled. Besides, I've been there, sleeping in my car after my ex cleaned out our bank account. 2 hours later, I was showering in a real bathroom for the first time in days. Tara's apartment was small but cozy, filled with secondhand furniture and art prints. So this Marcus guy, Tara said, as we shared takeout on her living room floor. What do you know about him? Not much. Drug dealer, apparently targets wealthy clients. Dangerous. Let me ask around. My brother went through rehab last year. He might know something. With a safe place to sleep and a new ally, I felt my focus sharpening. While Tara made calls, I created a timeline of Kimberly's descent, noting when behaviors changed, when she began missing work, when she started selling possessions. Tara's brother came through with alarming information. Marcus Blackwood had a reputation, not just as a dealer, but as someone who deliberately got wealthy clients hooked, then used their addiction to exploit them. Some of his female clients allegedly ended up working for him in various capacities to pay off debts. Your sister's probably not the first real estate agent he's used, Tara's brother explained over speakerphone. Think about it. They have access to empty luxury properties, no wealthy potential clients, and have legitimate reasons to move around the city at all hours. The next morning, I contacted Detective Harris at the local precinct, hoping the police might take Kimberly's disappearance seriously. Unless you can prove she's in imminent danger, this sounds like an adult who doesn't want to be found, he said dismissively. especially if drugs are involved. They often go off the grid deliberately. She left our distress signal, I insisted. She's asking for help. Look, if you have concrete evidence of a crime, bring it in. Otherwise, there's not much I can do officially. His emphasis on officially caught my attention. And unofficially. He hesitated. This Marcus character has been on our radar. If you happen to find specific information, dates, locations, transactions, I'd be interested. But I didn't say that. While continuing my search, I returned to Kimberly's condo daily, hoping she might come back. On my third visit, I discovered a loose floorboard in her closet. Underneath was a leather-bound journal. The entries began 18 months ago, chronicling her initial meeting with Marcus at a real estate networking event. The handwriting changed over time, becoming increasingly erratic as the entries progressed. Met M again tonight. Just a little to take the edge off after closing the Henderson deal. It's under control. $5,000 to M today. Need to sell the Cartier watch. He says the debt will be cleared after this payment. M says I can work off what I owe by hosting parties at my listings. Just networking events, he says. Nothing illegal. I don't believe him anymore. $23 0 inches debt now. How did this happen? Can't tell mom and dad. Can't tell anyone. They all think I'm perfect. What would they say if they knew? The last entry was dated 4 days before I found the red ribbon. M wants me to let his friends use the Westlake property for a deal. Said if I don't, he'll tell everyone what I've done. I've stolen from clients. Used empty houses for parties. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to take what I have left and disappear. If anyone finds this, I'm sorry. Especially Allison. I've been awful to her because I was jealous. She's brave enough to live her truth while I've been living a lie. My heart clenched. Kimberly had been jealous of me. The thought was so foreign it took several readings to process. A gentle knock at the door startled me. Outside stood an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes. I'm Agnes Reynolds from next door. I've seen you coming and going. Are you a friend of Kimberly's? Her sister. I'm trying to find her. Mrs. Reynolds invited me in for tea. Her condo was warm and inviting walls lined with bookshelves and family photos. I've been worried about your sister for months, she confessed. The visitors at all hours. The arguments. The change in her appearance. Did she ever mention someone named Marcus? Mrs. Reynolds's expression darkened. A dreadful man. Controlling. I heard him threatening her through the walls. When did you last see her? 4 days ago. Very early morning. She was carrying a suitcase looking frightened. I asked if she needed help. She said she was handling it, but her eyes. The older woman shook her head. She left this with me. Said if her sister ever came looking, I should give it to her. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a flash drive and a note in Kimberly's handwriting, evidence against Marcus. Be careful. Mrs. Reynolds touched my hand. Your sister spoke of you, you know. Said you were the strong one, though. She'd never admitted it. Strong me. She was always the successful one. There are many types of strength, dear. Surviving disappointment and remaining true to yourself might be the greatest one. When I returned to Tara's apartment, we examined the flash drive's contents. Photos of Marcus with clients, records of transactions, screenshots of threatening texts, and a video of Marcus discussing drug distribution at one of Kimberly's property listings. This is enough to interest Detective Harris, I said, hope rising for the first time in days. As we prepared to contact him, my phone rang. An unknown number. Allison Montgomery, a female voice, asked. Yes, this is Westlake Medical Center. We have your sister, Kimberly Montgomery, in our emergency room. The hospital corridors seemed endless as I followed a nurse toward the emergency department. My heart pounded in my throat. She was brought in about an hour ago, the nurse explained. She had your contact information in her wallet as her emergency contact. Is she okay? What happened? The doctor will explain. We turned a corner and I saw her, my sister lying in a hospital bed looking small and broken. Her usually perfect blonde hair was matted, her designer clothes replaced by a hospital gown. An IV dripped fluids into her arm and monitors beeped steadily beside her. Kimberly, I whispered, approaching cautiously. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion giving way to recognition, then shame. Ally, how did you? Her voice was raspy, barely audible. You listed me as your emergency contact. A doctor approached, chart in hand. Are you family? I'm her sister. What happened? Miss Montgomery was found unconscious in a motel room. Drug overdose. Opioids and cocaine. She's stable now, but it was close. Another hour and we might be having a different conversation. Kimberly turned her face away, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Can I have a moment with my sister? I asked. When we were alone, I took Kimberly's hand. She tried to pull away, but I held firm. I saw the red ribbon, I said quietly. Her eyes met mine, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. I didn't think anyone would remember. I remember everything, Kim. Her composure crumbled entirely. I've made such a mess, Allie. Everything's gone. My money, my career, my reputation. I stole from clients. I let Marcus use my properties for his business. I'm going to jail if the firm finds out. We'll figure it out. She laughed bitterly. Just like that, you'll wave a magic wand and fix the unfixable. I owe Marcus over $30,000. He's threatening to expose me if I don't pay. I found your journal. And the flash drive you left with Mrs. Reynolds. Fear flashed across her face. You need to destroy that. If Marcus finds out I kept evidence, it's the only leverage we have. You don't understand how dangerous he is. I've met him, Kim. I know exactly how dangerous he is. Her eyes widened. You met Marcus' ally. What have you done? What you should have done months ago, asked for help. Her face crumpled. I couldn't. Mom and Dad always held me up as the example. Why can't you be more like Kimberly? If they knew the truth. They do know. I told them. You what? Panic edged her voice. What did they say? They're in denial mostly. But they know something's wrong. They're hiring a private investigator. Kimberly groaned. Of course they are. Heaven forbid they actually deal with the problem directly. The shared understanding of our parents' methods brought a strange moment of connection. There's something else you should know, I said hesitantly. I found the email draft. The one telling Mom and Dad not to help me. Shame washed over her face. Marcus made me write it. He was isolating me from everyone who might notice what was happening. I'm so sorry, Allie. You used my identity for credit cards. I know. I'll pay you back somehow, I swear. A nurse entered to check Kimberly's vitals, informing us she'd need to stay overnight for observation. I can't stay here, Kimberly hissed when we were alone again. Marcus has people everywhere. If he finds out I'm here, you nearly died today, Kim. You need medical attention. I need to disappear. He'll kill me, Allie. This isn't an exaggeration. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text. Found her, yet clock's ticking. M. I showed it to Kimberly, whose face went ashen. How does he know you're looking for me? I haven't exactly been subtle. I've been showing your photo all over town. We need to leave. Now, Kimberly, you're in withdrawal. You need medical supervision. What I need is to not be a sitting duck in a public hospital. She tried to stand immediately, swaying on unsteady legs. I caught her before she fell. At least wait until morning, I pleaded. Let the medications help you through the worst of it. Then we'll figure out our next move. She relented, sinking back into the hospital bed. You should go. It's not safe for you to be associated with me. I'm not leaving you. Why are you helping me after everything I've done? The question hung in the air between us, heavy with our complicated history. Because you put up the red ribbon, I answered simply. And because you're my sister. I spent the night in a chair beside her bed, watching her cycle through the brutal stages of early withdrawal, sweating, shaking, retching into a hospital basin. By morning, she was exhausted but more lucid. Against medical advice, I checked her out, promising the reluctant doctor we were transferring to a private facility. Instead, we headed to Tara's apartment, the only place I could think of where Marcus wouldn't look. Tara greeted us with remarkable composure, quickly converting her living room into a makeshift recovery room. My brother went through this twice before it stuck, she explained, arranging water bottles, sports drinks, and crackers on the coffee table. I know the drill. Kimberly eyed her suspiciously. Why are you helping us? You don't even know me. I know what it's like to hit bottom with nowhere to go, Tara replied. Sometimes strangers are kinder than family. The next 48 hours were a special kind of hell. Kimberly alternated between feverish confessions, desperate pleas for relief, and periods of sleep so deep she seemed barely alive. I barely left her side, using the time to work with Detective Harris, providing the evidence from the flash drive. "This is substantial," he confirmed over the phone. "But we need more to make charges stick. Does your sister know locations, dates, names of other people involved?" During one of Kimberly's more lucid periods, I broached the subject. "I can't be a snitch," she protested weakly. "Marcus would find out." "He already wants to hurt you," I reminded her. "At least this way, you'll have police protection." "You still don't get it," she whispered. "It's not just Marcus, it's everything. If I testify, everyone will know. The firm, our parents' friends, the entire social circle I've built my life around. I'll lose everything." "You've already lost everything," I said gently. "Your condo is being foreclosed on. Your firm is reassigning your clients. The only thing you're holding on to is an image that's already shattered." She was quiet for a long time. "When did you get so wise?" "Probably around the time I accepted that I'd never be the perfect daughter." On the third day of her withdrawal, my parents appeared at Tara's door, their expressions a mix of shock and dismay at finding their eldest daughter in such a state. "We need to get her to a private facility," my father insisted. "Somewhere discreet." "She's not going anywhere until Detective Harris talks to her," I countered. "She has information that can put Marcus away." "Absolutely not," my father thundered. "No daughter of mine is getting involved with the police." From the makeshift bed on the couch, Kimberly's voice rose weakly. "I'm not your daughter right now, Dad. I'm just another addict trying not to die. And I'm going to talk to the detective." The stunned silence that followed was broken by my mother's quiet sobs. For perhaps the first time in her life, Kimberly had directly defied our father, and in defense of her own survival, not her image. Detective Harris arrived an hour later. The statement took 3 hours, Kimberly detailing every transaction, location, and name she could remember. When it was complete, she seemed simultaneously exhausted and unburdened. "What happens now?" I asked Harris. "We move on, Marcus, but your sister needs to be somewhere safe. He'll know she's talking." My parents finally proved useful, arranging a private room at an addiction treatment center under a false name with security measures in place. As we prepared to transport Kimberly, she grabbed my hand. "I stole your identity," she whispered. "I sabotaged you with our parents. I've been horrible to you for years because I was jealous of your freedom. Why don't you hate me?" I considered her question seriously. "Maybe because I've spent so long thinking you had everything." "I didn't. I never stopped to consider you might feel the same way about me." She gave a weak laugh. "What a pair we are. The Montgomery sisters," I agreed. "Perfectly imperfect." The addiction treatment center resembled a luxury spa more than a hospital. Nestled in the Berkshires, it offered private rooms, gourmet meals, and various therapeutic activities, all for $2,000 a day. My parents wrote the check without blinking, the same parents who couldn't spare a dime when I was sleeping in my car. I pushed down the resentment. This wasn't about me. Kimberly had been in treatment for 2 weeks when Detective Harris called with a warning. "We moved on Marcus's operation last night. Got him and most of his crew, but he made bail this morning. His lawyer's good." "Does he know Kimberly talked?" "He will soon enough. These cases have discovery procedures. You might want to increase security." I relayed the information to my father, who immediately hired 2 private security guards for the treatment center. For once, I was grateful for his connections and resources. Tara had generously extended her couch offer, but I couldn't impose indefinitely. With Kimberly safely in treatment, I focused on rebuilding my own life, searching for jobs and affordable apartments. The situation was complicated by the credit card debt Kimberly had racked up in my name, nearly $15,000 that would take years to untangle. 3 weeks into Kimberly's treatment, my parents invited me to dinner. The formal dining room felt suffocating as always, but something had shifted in their demeanor. "We've been thinking," my father began awkwardly. "This situation with your sister has made us reevaluate some things." My mother nodded. "We haven't been fair to you, Allison. We held Kimberly up as the standard, never recognizing the pressure it placed on both of you." I waited, not trusting myself to speak. "We'd like to help you get back on your feet," my father continued. "Cover your debts, help with apartment deposits. No strings attached. The offer was everything I'd needed weeks ago, yet I found myself hesitating. Why now? Because I've finally proven useful. My father flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it when I called you desperate and homeless, you told me I was on my own? What's changed? My mother reached across the table. We've changed, Allison. Seeing Kimberly like that, it shattered something in us. Made us question everything we thought we knew about parenthood. We were wrong, my father admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. About many things. We equated success with happiness, achievement with worth. We pushed Kimberly so hard she felt she couldn't fail, and we dismissed your passion as frivolous because it didn't fit our narrow definition of success. Their sincerity was unexpected and disarming. I'd spent years assuming they simply didn't care about my struggles. The possibility that they'd been acting from misguided love rather than indifference was something I wasn't prepared to process. I need time to think about it, I said finally. The next morning, as I was leaving Tara's apartment for a job interview, a black car pulled alongside me. The window lowered to reveal Marcus's cold smile. Finally found you, he said conversationally. Where's your sister? I kept walking, heart pounding. I have no idea. He kept pace with me, car rolling slowly beside me. Funny because the cop seemed to have a lot of information that only Kimberly could have provided. Information she promised she'd never share. Maybe you should talk to your lawyer about that. His smile vanished. Get in the car, Allison. We're going for a drive. I don't think so. He opened the door. It wasn't a request. Unless you want me to pay that nice barista friend of yours. A visit instead, Tara, isn't it? The threat froze me in place. In that moment of hesitation, he grabbed my arm, attempting to pull me toward the vehicle. I fought back, screaming for help as we struggled on the sidewalk. Police hands up, Detective Harris's voice cut through the chaos, along with the wail of approaching sirens. Marcus shoved me hard, bolting toward his car, but officers converged from multiple directions. Within moments, he was handcuffed and in custody. Are you all right? Harris asked, helping me up. How did you know? I gasped. We've been monitoring Marcus since his release. When he started surveilling this address, we set up our own watch. At the station, Harris explained the new charges. Attempted kidnapping, witness intimidation, violation of bail conditions. He won't be getting out again before trial. Your sister's testimony is even more crucial now. I called the treatment center, relieved to hear Kimberly was safe and making progress. When I told her about Marcus's arrest, she wept with relief. I can't believe it's over, she whispered. Not quite over. There's still the trial. I'll testify, she said with newfound resolve. About everything. It's time I faced consequences instead of running from them. In the following weeks, as Kimberly continued treatment and prepared to testify, I made decisions about my own future. I declined my parents' financial offer, instead accepting a more modest proposal. They would help clear the fraudulent credit card debt in my name, but I would support myself otherwise. I found work as an art teacher at a community center and rented a tiny studio apartment nearby. The pay was modest, but for the first time I was pursuing my passion without apology or justification. One evening, sorting through my art supplies, I found an unfinished painting I'd started months ago, a self-portrait I'd abandoned because it never felt good enough. Inspired, I began painting again, this time creating a series about addiction, family, and redemption. When a local gallery owner visited the community center and saw my work, he offered me a small exhibition. The opening night coincided with Kimberly's completion of her 90-day treatment program. My parents attended, awkwardly navigating the bohemian gallery crowd. Kimberly came too, looking healthier than I'd seen her in years, though more subdued than her former self. These are remarkable, my father said, studying a painting depicting two women with a red ribbon connecting them. You've always had this talent. Always, I confirmed. You just never noticed. He nodded, accepting the gentle rebuke. I'm noticing now. As the evening wound down, Kimberly approached me, tears in her eyes. Your work tells our story better than I ever could. You transformed all that pain into something beautiful. That's what artists do, I smiled. We take the broken pieces and make something new. She hugged me tightly. I start my community service next week, and then there's the trial. I'm scared, but I'm not running anymore. One day at a time, right? Isn't that what they teach you in treatment? One day at a time, she agreed. Starting now. 6 months later, I stood in my tiny apartment surveying the organized chaos of my life. Canvases lined the walls. Some completed, others in progress. My kitchen table doubled as a workspace, paint stains permanently marking its surface. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My phone buzzed with a text from Kimberly, 3 months sober today. Couldn't have done it without you. Her journey hadn't been straight or easy. After testifying against Marcus, resulting in his conviction on multiple charges, she'd faced her own legal consequences: probation, community service, and restitution for the money she'd taken. The real estate firm had pressed charges for theft, but with her cooperation and voluntary return of what funds she could, they'd agreed to a plea deal. She now worked as an administrative assistant at a nonprofit helping women recover from addiction and domestic violence. The pay was a fraction of her former income, but as she often said, "I sleep better at night." My parents had undergone their own transformation. Family therapy had revealed decades of unaddressed issues. My father's own domineering parents, my mother's thwarted ambitions, their shared fear of appearing imperfect. They weren't suddenly ideal parents, but they were trying attending Al-Anon meetings and learning to show love without conditions. Tara remained a close friend, her steadfast support during our darkest days, creating a bond that transcended ordinary friendship. She'd encouraged me to apply for a grant that funded art programs for at-risk youth, which now supplemented my teaching income. Mrs. Reynolds still invited me for tea whenever I visited Kimberly's old building. "You girls remind me that it's never too late to start over," she'd say, pouring from her floral teapot. As for me, I'd learned that standing on my own feet didn't mean facing everything alone. Independence wasn't isolation, and asking for help wasn't weakness. Sometimes, it was the strongest thing you could do. One crisp autumn evening, Kimberly visited my apartment for dinner. We'd established a tradition of weekly meals alternating between our places. She brought takeout. We were both terrible cooks, a trait we blamed on our mother's insistence that the housekeeper prepare all meals. "I have something for you," she said, handing me a small package. Inside was a painting, amateur but heartfelt, of two young girls with a red ribbon tied between their wrists. "I've been taking an art class," she explained, embarrassed. "I'm not very good." "It's perfect," I assured her. We sat on my small balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Do you think we would have found our way back to each other without all this?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe some relationships have to break completely before they can be rebuilt. Like kintsugi," she mused. "That Japanese art where they repair broken pottery with gold. The cracks become part of the beauty." I smiled. "Exactly like that. Our cracks are filled with truth now instead of pretense." "I was so jealous of you," she confessed. "You pursued what you loved despite everyone's disapproval. I was too afraid to deviate from the path our parents set, and I was jealous of your confidence, your success. I thought you had everything. I guess we were both performing versions of ourselves we thought the world wanted. And now," she considered this, "now I'm just trying to be authentic. It's harder than I expected. But worth it. Definitely worth it." We sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell, the city lights twinkling like earthbound stars. There was still so much healing ahead. Trust to rebuild, amends to make, patterns to break. But for the first time it felt possible. The red ribbon that once signaled distress had become something new, a symbol of the unbreakable connection between sisters who had seen each other at their worst and chosen to love each other anyway. "What do you think is the most important lesson from all this?" I asked. Kimberly thought for a moment. "That true family means seeing someone's brokenness and staying anyway. Not because you're obligated, but because you choose to." As she spoke, I thought about all of you who followed this journey with me. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who stand by you when it would be easier to walk away. What about you? Has someone in your life seen your imperfections and chosen to stay anyway, or have you been that person for someone else? Share your stories in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and remember that our greatest strength often emerges from our deepest wounds. Because sometimes when everyone tells you you're on your own, the universe sends unlikely allies to remind you that you never truly are.